Good morning, everybody. My name is Beta Desai. I'm the Executive Director at the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. So first, I do want to say that for the record, many of us who are here today, even though we have, had our conflicts and tensions, as I think you are aware of more than any other, body in the city of New York, we all participated in all of the city council hearings. Many of us participated in different town halls. And I just think it can't, I need to say that because I do feel in a lot of the public discussions, we as an industry and as a workforce have been, we've been portrayed as people that have somehow not been cooperative in this process, and that nothing could be farther from the truth. I think some of the other misconceptions I would really like to clarify are, one, for some people it seems like a driver by definition is just reckless. And it is an assumption that everybody is reckless. And what we need to do is whittle down to the few people that are not. And even people who've talked about the statistic that you are safer in a yellow, green, livery, or black car per mile driven than any other vehicle in the city of New York, almost say that as it's just a small achievement. And they forget the reality that this achievement is earned by drivers after putting in over 20,000 miles on the road per year and through 60-hour work weeks with no guaranteed income, often little income, very high debt, and no benefits. And traffic in one of the most congested cities in the world. Throughout Vision Zero, one thing that has frustrated all of us is, while there's been rhetoric by many advocates that, this is about shared streets, there's been very little about shared responsibilities on these shared streets. And so it feels like there's an expectation that taxi drivers need to be held accountable for the actions of everybody else on the streets. And that is humanly impossible and utterly unfair. There's also some assumption that enforcement is fair and balanced, and that is not true. All who share the streets are not equally held accountable. All tickets are not warranted. All tickets for even moving violations do not indicate that the driver is someone with reckless career or reckless potential. Also, there's been no consideration of the other factors besides a driver's choice that come into play. Specifically infrastructure, and issues of having more left turn signals. You look at a place like Penn Station, we have drivers who, under the critical driver program, have had their licenses revoked. When you look at their summons history, all the summonses came from when they were dropping off fares at Penn Station, where any driver can tell you there are shortages there because everyone knows it's a ticket trap. It's a place where traffic gets bottlenecked because there is no proper place to pick up and drop off passengers at one location. And instead of addressing that infrastructure failure, taxi drivers get summoned. And you get not one summons, you get multiple summonses at a time. While all the points may not count for multiple violations in one incident, the fines do add up. And if you get these tickets on multiple different incidents, the points add up to the point of a revocation. You could be somebody who's never been in an accident, but because of moving violations that otherwise would not be considered hazardous, you could lose your livelihood. And, I understand that no one here wants to make the comparison between loss of livelihood and loss of lives. We in particular don't want to make that comparison because the reality is taxi drivers themselves end up with that, dehumanizing choice when you look at the rate of assaults that drivers face. But livelihood is important. People need to feed their families. That's how you live. It's how you survive. We don't want that to be taken for granted. You know, you're talking about a workforce that does not have so many options.
Could you wrap up, Ms. Desai?
Yeah, I will, and I appreciate the extra time you're giving me. But, you know, I just want to say for the record that we're really proud of the fact that drivers have the best driving records in the city of New York. We're proud of the fact that, you know, we're going to be safety ambassadors that really will be the face of how the streets can run better. What we ask for in return is that we're not dehumanized. We're not treated like everybody is reckless. We're not treated that nobody else has any accountability in the city of New York, on the streets of New York, and that the wisdom that drivers have about infrastructure, about traffic design, these things need to be valued. And the only way you can value them is if you don't begin the conversation with people as if they're all walking criminals that are just waiting to be arrested. Thank you.
Thank you. The last
Okay. Have you communicated with TLC with some of the challenges with respect to design? And
Actually, this is something that came up yesterday, and Beta V is going to put together a list that I'm going to pass on to the Department of Transportation and explain to them what the intersections that are difficult and the design ideas that they have, and it's part of DOT's ongoing Vision Zero workshops where they're redesigning trouble intersections based on community input. So this will be a package I can present to them.
Thank you, and I should say, I mean, we do have specific comments to the proposed language, but just after hearing the different testimony, just, you know, it's felt necessary to speak more broadly, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Mohammed Asim Akhtar. I just want to talk about the long-term drivers rule, where they're already just want to talk about the long-term drivers rule where I have seen the TLC reduce the car retirement age because the agents did not meet the requirement for TLC.
That's not really on for today, so please.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to raise. It's in the.
You're right. I'm sorry. It is.
It is, right? Yeah, just wanted to raise that issue because there are drivers, DOV operators whose car age was reduced from 7 years to 4 years because the agents did not file the long-term driver lease agreement with the TLC, where the drivers have paid from $50,000 to $55,000 towards their cars, and now they cannot have it because the agents who were supposed to, come up with their TLC requirement where they had to submit the lease agreement. So the point I'm trying to make is the drivers who are already been suffering because of that rule and because of the agent's negligence, they should be, either they should get the 1-year extension or they should get their age retirement date back specifically 28th Street Management, where there are a couple of drivers, not couple, there are more than a couple of drivers, where their car was supposed to retire in 2017, but because the agents didn't meet their TLC requirement, reduced to 2014. So they lost like 3 years, where they paid $50,000 to $50,000 for the car. So because you guys are changing that rule.
I know that you've sent us some examples and that we're actively looking into. And there's someone from my staff who can meet with you in the back if you have other examples of where there's been, just due to a lack of flow of paperwork, somebody hasn't gotten the benefit of the retirement extension.
Mostly or because of the lack of paper.
Okay, so that's definitely something we can address on a case-by-case basis if you give us the underlying detail.
Sure, because it's not the driver's responsibility, and even drivers who try to submit the documents as they are long-term lease drivers, TLC would only deal with the agents, and agents just, they knew that if they're not going to meet with, this requirement, the age will reduce. and the drivers were never told. And mostly drivers were find out when they went for a TLC inspection, where when they gave out the hand down, they realized, oh, wait a minute, why my age is reduced? And on their own, when they came to TLC and they find out that, TLC sent out the directive to the owners for the long-term lease drivers, and they never responded back to them. So I'm just saying that, the drivers are being punished in this whole scenario where, it's not their responsibility. It was the agents.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.